You know what? You be the Moll Cutpurse that you want to... Moll Cutpurse that you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Be
right.
the Moll Cutpurse that you want to wank to.
Books. 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 Books.
Hello and welcome to Didn't Read It, the podcast that is in love with a fictional character from the 1600s.
Yeah.
I am your host, Grace Todd, writer, editor, book gremlin, and joining me again this week is bestie, beloved, Lee.
Woo!
Hi, baby.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Lee. I am excited to be here to talk about the play. Here I am.
Here you are.
Yes.
Still in love with Mary. Well, with Moll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a good job writing her character, the Thomases.
So we are here for part 2 of the Thomases, Middleton and Dekker, 1611 play The Roaring Girl.
The Roaring Girl.
The Roaring Girl.
The Roaring Girl.
Lee,
Yes.
can you, for the benefit of our listeners who will be listening to this a week apart from the first half, can you give us a quick recap of where we have been on this adventure so far?
Grace, I can try.
I believe in you.
Okay. 1611,
Mhm.
which is the Jacobean
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm-hmm.
in England,
King James.
and his Bible.
Yeah.
So it's a zany cast of characters, and all of the main character is named after a real person. There's this couple, and they can't get married. Okay, Sebastian and Mary.
Mhm.
Sebastian's father, Alexander, is like a rich asshole who's like, Mary isn't rich enough to marry you. You can't marry her. I forbid it.
Mhm.
And then Sebastian and Mary hatch a plan. Here's how we'll get married. Sebastian's like, I will pretend I'm not interested in you anymore. I'll pretend I'm interested in someone who is so horrible and awful
Mhm.
that my dad will be like, no, not her. Go back to Mary. I allow it. And the person that he chooses is Moll Cutpurse. And she's a real person.
Yeah. There's also there's a fun little pun there.
Cutpurse.
Purse, scrotum, cut purse.
Oh.
She's a thief and also she's cut.
She's cutting the... Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Carry on.
She gets better and better. But that's who he's going to pretend to be into. And then there's a bunch of rich dudes doing rich dude stuff. And their sons are all rich dude sons, Nepo babies, with nothing better to do but to kind of like fuck around with married ladies and try to... they literally have nothing better to do.
Mhm.
So there's a bunch of... I don't know. There's some merchants and there's some rich Nepo babies who like to fuck with them.
Yeah.
And fuck them.
We have an apothecary.
Oh, right.
A
Yes.
seamster and a feather seller.
And a feather seller.
Gallipot, open work, and tilt yard.
Yes. Those are their names.
Yes. And their wives.
Well, things happen with them.
Yeah.
Just believe that.
Two of their wives are mid-attempted seduction.
There's affairs. There's accusations of affairs. There's one wife who doesn't want anything. Meanwhile, Moll Cutpurse. Can't get that last name.
I'm really loving that you keep trying to turn this into Firefly fan fiction. You're just like, Moll?
Who?
Trans mask Mal from Firefly.
I have not heard the name Moll before, and it is giving me trouble. Okay, Moll, not Mal, Moll, comes on the scene and is a woman, real name Mary. Don't get her confused with First Mary. That's why we're going to call her Moll.
Yeah.
But she likes to dress like a guy. And she's also really f***ing cool and good with a sword and super chill and likes to have a good time. And everyone agrees universally across genders, class, and every other distinction that Moll is hot as fuck and super sexy and everybody wants to fuck her. And what makes her super sexy especially is that she dresses like a dude.
Yeah.
So hijinks, confusion. Sebastian tries to, do the fake I'm in love with Moll thing. It gets a little messy, and then he eventually just tells her, like, hey, he didn't let her know. He didn't let her in on it beforehand. And now he's like, hey, I'm actually trying to like do this is like a thing so that I can like marry. And she's like, why didn't you just say so? Yes, I will help you.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, his dad, Alexander, is like, no, Moll sucks. And he's like trying to entrap Moll and get her sent to like prison and probably to her death and everything so that his son doesn't. He still doesn't want his son to marry the first Mary, but he also really, really, really doesn't want her to marry Moll. And his little henchman is named Trapdoor, which is a funny name. Yeah, and various dudes like hit on Moll, and she like beats him in a sword fight. And when we left off, Alexander had tried a couple different tricks to entrap Moll and like get her arrested and like try to tempt her with like thievable jewels left out. Then she was just like, oh, somebody better put these jewels away. Somebody's gonna steal these. Anyway, he fails to like entrap her. So Sebastian, Mary, and Moll are all like, this is all working great and we're doing great. And then Alexander's like, no, I have a really good plan. I'm going to give her this fake money and she's going to get in trouble. She's going to get caught using it and she's going to get in trouble or something like that. I don't really understand how it works.
I'm not sure I do either, to be fair.
Yeah, but it was like a real problem.
It made sense at the time.
At the time, they were like, oh no, he's got her this time. And then we left off.
That was brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Welcome back.
Yes.
We've taken an intermission.
Yes.
We've peed in a giant ditch behind the theater.
Oh,
that's
I thought you were talking about you and me. I was like, I used the bathroom.
We've peed in a giant ditch behind the theater.
Yeah.
We've made sure that we still have our purses on us and that the cut purses didn't get us while we were paying attention to the play.
Yeah.
We've
bought more warm, weak beer.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We filtered back in, and now it's time
for the thrilling conclusion.
Of The Roaring Girl. What we're going to do is kind of quickly wrap up our B plot here with all of our merchants and their horny wives, their horny
dissatisfied wives. Yeah.
And if you remember, we have Goshhawk, who was told by Master Openwork, that because Mrs. Openwork stressed him out so much, he was seeing sex workers out in the suburbs. And Goshhawk immediately ran with this information to Mrs. Openwork and has been using it to try and convince her
to have sex with him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gallipot is being flirted with by Laxton, no testicles.
Who flirts with everybody.
Yeah. But he specifically has been wooing her to get her to give him money.
He's not fucking her. He's just...
Yes. Mrs. Gallipot, when trying to figure out how to get the money, told her husband that she and Laxton had been betrothed once, and that Laxton has come back and asked for money in order to leave them alone, because this would invalidate her marriage to Mr. Gallipot.
Bigamy.
So when we open, and we're now in Act 4.
I can imagine that, like, unless the actors had very distinctive colors or something on stage, like very distinctive costumes, like one couple only wore blue and one couple only wore red, or it's be like you just be watching the action just being like, this means nothing to me because I don't know who the these people are.
I feel like the farcical B plots are always unnecessarily complicated, and they're meant to kind of just wash over you in like a
zany
series of punchlines.
Yeah.
So Laxton comes back. Basically, there's a whole scene where, like, Mrs. Gallipot and Mrs. Openwork are kind of complaining at each other and trying to decide if Master Openwork has, in fact, been cheating on Mrs. Openwork. She makes the old joke that I did not realize was this old, where she's basically like, I don't know why he'd be eating stale mutton when he has fresh at home.
Oh, Paul Newman.
But as they are going back and forth,
meanwhile, the third merchant's wife just doesn't give a shit.
She's
like, don't touch me, don't talk to me, come buy feathers or leave me alone.
That is, that's her whole thing.
Okay.
So Mrs. Openwork and Mrs. Gallipot, and then Laxton, and then Goshhawk, and then Mr. Like, everyone arrives on the scene.
Okay.
And the first thing that happens is that Mrs. Openwork starts going after her husband for his alleged infidelity.
You've been
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she is losing her mind at him, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done anything wrong. And she and Mrs. Gallipot are like, we have proof, like someone told us that this was gonna happen. Goshhawk shows up on the scene. Master Openwork is like, someone's been lying about me. And that thing happens where the two women are like, you know, someone swore to us that you were committing adultery.
Yeah.
And he's like, tell me who, and I'll avenge my honor on him. And they're like, we can't say.
Goshawk's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Goop.
Well, and then Open Work goes to Goshawk and is basically like, you're my friend.
Yeah.
Swear to me that you will help me avenge myself on this person who has wronged me.
Yeah.
And Goshawk is like, oh.
It's like, yeah, totally, bro.
The temperature keeps rising,
Uh-huh.
and it gets increasingly farcical, and everyone's shouting, and there's
Yeah.
some dumb jokes. And finally...
And then they all take off their clothes and it's an orgy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And finally, Mrs. Openwork and Mrs. Gallipot throw Goshawk under the bus.
Oh.
They're like, he did it.
Yeah,
And
he did.
Openwork is immediately not mad anymore.
He's like, oh, that's fine.
Oh, I told you a lie to see if you were trustworthy.
Oh.
But you know what? Bros before hoes. And Mrs. Openwork is kind of like, excuse me? No, bros before hoes. We've been nah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Essentially the same thing happens with the Gallipots, where
Okay.
Laxton shows up with a friend who is pretending to be like a lawyer, and he's like,
Oh, boy.
I'm here to serve you a writ
Yeah.
because your wife is mine.
Yeah.
And Gallipot's like, no. And Mrs. Gallipot is finally like, I can't lie any longer.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
I made it up.
I made it up. Laxton and Gallipot are immediately like, oh, okay. Like,
That's fine.
it's whatever. Both wives are left unsatisfied,
Yeah.
but unpunished.
Okay.
And all of the men are still besties and still drinking together.
So everything is the same.
Everything is the same.
You get the feeling this happens like once a month.
There are some speeches about the women who brag the most about not putting out.
Are the ones putting the outest.
Kind of, yeah. Laxton's defense, when it all comes out, he says that, you know, they were sitting around with Mrs. Gallipot. It says, she vowed that you, her husband, had so much of her heart, no man by all his wit, by any wile, never so fine spun, should yourself beguile of what in her was yours. I scorned one woman thus should brave all men, and which more vexed me, a she citizen. Therefore I laid siege to her. So basically he's like, your wife bragged so much about her honor that I had to try it.
Is that even true?
I don't know.
Because she wants to fuck him real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unclear if we're meant to understand that these are charming lies, or if this is what Dekker and Middleton actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It seems like one bro just like saving another bro's feelings.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
The conclusion of this scene and of this sort of B plot is, so Laxton swears up and down that he never actually had sex with Mrs. Gallipot, which
Yeah.
he didn't, which means she is still very, very frustrated.
Yeah.
Mr. Gallipot says, then, sir, I am beholden, not to you, wife, but Master Laxton, to your want of doing ill, which it seems you have not. Gentlemen, tarry and dine here all.
Yeah.
And Gallipot says, Master Gallipot says, wife, brag no more of holding out. Who most brags is most whore. Literally, the dudes just roll off to go party with each other, and the
Yeah.
wives, I guess, are just...
So just like, God damn it.
So
okay.
so that wraps up the B plot.
All right.
And then there's an interesting, very long scene that we are going to skip entirely
Okay.
that is usually referred to as the canting scene.
Canting.
So cant is a possibly entirely made up, but possibly not, essentially like criminal language
Okay.
that was spoken among the criminal class.
Okay.
The idea that the lower classes, and especially that the criminal classes, have their own kind of secret criminal language, that's very common, right? You see that in a bunch of different time periods.
Yeah.
There's, think about like the way that people talked and wrote about like Cockney in
Oh, yeah.
Victorian England, and like it honestly, it reminds me of like Guy Ritchie movies.
Yeah.
It's highly stylized and it's using a lot of slang.
Yeah.
So Moll and her gentleman bros are just hanging out, like broing out.
Uh-huh.
She's got Jack Dapper's there.
Just bros.
Yeah, they're just bros. They're
Yeah.
just bros being bros. And they're like riding through the countryside. And first they encounter Trapdoor, who Moll has since fired,
Yeah.
along with a man named Tearcat. And they are pretending to be crippled soldiers
Hmm.
and are like asking for alms.
Did they recognize Trapdoor?
Yes.
Okay.
And they give him a hard time.
Yeah.
And she exposes the two of them for not really being soldiers.
Yeah.
And then they meet two other thieves.
Mm-hmm.
And Moll, she gives them money and kind of has them do almost like a little performance in this thieves dialect for the
Yeah.
gentleman, and she sort of translates for them.
Yeah.
So the idea of canting and the idea of this dialect that only the criminal classes understood
Uh-huh.
was kind of a salate, like an ooh, you know, like there
Yeah.
were pamphlets about it. Thomas Dekker had written like a dictionary of cant. He was very invested in this.
Yeah.
What is most likely is that there was quite a bit of real slang
Mm-hmm.
that then they kind of span out into this whole like it's a whole other language that
Yeah.
you can't hope to, you know what I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still do that, I feel like.
Sure. Can you read an example of what the cant sounds like? To my ears, it's probably going to sound exactly the same as the rest.
She and one of them sing a song together
Mm-hmm.
in cant, and the song is: "A gauge of Ben Romboos in a boozing ken of Romville is benar than a caster. Peck, Panem, Lap, or Poplar, which we mill in Doozaville. Oh, I would lib all the lightmans, oh, I would lib all the darkmans, by the Solomon under the roughmans, by the Solomon in the Harmons, and scour the queer cramp ring, and couch till a palliard docked my dell, so my boozy nab might skew Romboos well. Avast to the pad let us bing, avast to the pad let us bing."
Yeah, that made no sense.
Yeah. And she translates it for the present lords, and
Yeah.
it translates allegedly to: "Oh, a rich cup of wine, oh, it is juice divine, more wholesome for the head than meat, drink, or bread. To fill my drunken pate with that I'd sit up late, by the heels I would lie, under a lousy hedge die. Let a slave have a pull at my whore, so I be full of that precious liquor, and a parcel of such stuff and that's
Sure.
yeah." And so this scene it's quite long, and I think it's partly Dekker almost doing a little bit of advertising for himself.
Yeah.
He's like, man, look at all this fun canting stuff.
Yeah.
But what it does
If you'd like to know more,
yeah,
buy
right.
my pamphlet.
But what it does establish is Moll's sort of underworld bona fides.
Uh-huh.
She speaks this criminal language. She
Yeah.
understands it. She knows these people. They know her. They know who she is. And at the end of the scene, essentially one of the gentlemen who doesn't seem to know her as well, more or less is kind of like, should we trust you? Because you know this? She says, "I wonder how you came to the knowledge of these nasty villains.
Hmm.
And why do the foul mouths of the world call thee Moll Cutpurse, a name methinks damned and odious?" And she essentially says that she kind of hints at like, yeah, I maybe used to be a pickpocket, and I like grew up, I came up around these people, and
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time at playhouses, but that doesn't make me a criminal. Knowing criminals does not mean that I necessarily am a criminal or still a criminal. She makes an interesting parallel, and it's thinking about how deeply, deeply classist this society was. And
Uh-huh.
the idea of someone being able to speak cant not automatically being a criminal takes a little bit of coaxing.
Convincing, yeah.
The example that she goes with is like if you were traveling in Italy and your friend that you were traveling with saved you from being attacked by villains because he understood something about villainous Italians that you didn't know, would you be mad at him for knowing it, or would you just be thankful that he had your back?
Yeah.
This is kind of one of her last like defenses of herself before we wrap up. And so
Mhm.
she says, "Must you have a black ill name because ill things you know? Good troth, my lord, I am made Moll Cutpurse so. How many are whores and small roughs and still looks? How many chaste, whose names fill slander's books? Were all men cuckolds whom gallants in their scorns call so, we should not walk for goring horns. Perhaps for my mad going some reprove me. I please myself, and care not else who loves me." So, A of all, you cannot believe gossip and slander.
Yeah.
If every man who was called a cuckold was a cuckold, we wouldn't be able to walk without getting horned, which I think is a great image.
It is, yeah.
And essentially, because of the way I live, people are always going to have shit to say about me, but it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person.
She basically ends by being like, I love myself. I don't care.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Moisturized, unbothered, in my lane,
Yep.
flourishing.
Yes.
And the gentlemen are like, you know what, you're right. You're great. We love you. I like the cut of your jib.
Yeah, bro. My question is, would the audience at this time, like, how would they react to the scene? Would they think, like, oh, that makes her really cool? Or would they think Moll is like, oh, no, maybe Moll is a bad guy? Or would they, I don't know, like, how would they react to this information? Is this just seems to be some sort of personal project of Thomas Dekker's?
In terms of how the audience would react to Moll, I think that it would vary depending on the person's class, upon how conservative they were. You know, like just like now, society's not a monolith. I think there would have been people who would have rolled into the theater being like, I'm already on board.
Yeah.
But I do think it's very clear that some of these scenes are overtly meant to win the audience around. They're making a point. This is a sort of didactic.
They're setting up your expectations and then
these are
disproving them.
The beats that we're hitting, kind of like step by step by step. We are trying to make the point that Moll is not necessarily a bad person or dishonest or whatever.
Yeah, they're addressing the haters.
They are addressing the haters.
Yes,
and that is kind of the last hater addressing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think partly, too, they had to at some point, because they've been making this point that, like, she's honest, right? She didn't steal the objects that Sir Alexander left out for her. They've built her up as, like, honorable. I think, too, they had to at some point, as writers who are creating a character at the end of the day, they had to be like, okay, well, if she's this cool and good, why is she Moll Cutpurse?
That's true. Oh, you think it's like a bit of reverse engineering?
They're like, we've written ourselves into a corner here.
Yeah. The audience will just leave being like, why did they name her that?
Yeah. I think they had to address both her name and her reputation because the character of her that they've created is like a little too,
like, not believable.
A little too honest. And so they had to be like, well, okay, so she's like affiliated with she's familiar with the criminal world.
Yeah.
She still likes it. She likes a good drink. She likes to party.
Yeah.
She hangs out with criminals. But that doesn't mean she is one.
We say that criminals are still bad. We're not arguing that. She just, like, knows them, and that doesn't make her bad.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, like, making a radical political statement.
No, not that. I mean, I think the play itself is decently radical.
They're not making that radical political statement.
And it's middlingly radical.
Sure.
You can have a little radical as a treat.
Yes. Yeah. Don't get carried away.
And so now we've dispensed with the merchants.
Right.
We've explained why Moll knows criminals.
Yeah.
And why she's Moll Cutpurse.
Yeah.
And now it is time for the big
finale
denouement.
Yeah.
Which begins with Sir Alexander.
That guy.
Yeah, that guy. Hanging out with Sir Guy Fitzallard, Mary's father.
Oh.
Oh.
Who he thinks is too poor.
Yes.
I mean, who is also very rich, but, like, is not rich enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sir Guy is basically like, you scorned my daughter, you fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And Sir Alexander appears to finally be beaten. He is just...
Oh, yeah.
He's been ground into the dirt.
Yeah.
And...
that's what you get.
It appears that Trapdoor is basically telling Sir Alexander that Sebastian and Moll are, like, about to get married.
Oh.
That it's happening.
Oh.
Sir Guy and Sir Alexander, because Sir Alexander is wreathed in despair.
Because he wants his daughter to get married. No.
Sir
Alexander.
Yeah, Sir Alexander is wreathed in despair because Sebastian's going to take the plunge.
Yeah.
He's like, I would give anything. I would give half of my estate if only my son would marry somebody else.
Half of your estate, you say.
And Sir Guy is like, I would wager my whole estate against half of your estate that I can get your son to marry somebody else.
Attaboy.
Uh-huh. Because they never bothered telling us this, but he's apparently in on the plot.
Yeah, it would seem so.
And Sir Alexander is basically like, great, anything, I'll do anything.
Oh, thank you, Sir Guy.
He's like, he basically is like, I don't believe that you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I think Sebastian is too in love.
Yes. He's a very perceptive man.
Sir Alexander commits to the bit. Sir Guy leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So Moll turns up, and at this juncture in the play, for reasons, Goshawk and another side character are there, and they've started referring to her as Jack, which is great. I love this.
But her friend's name is Jack.
Well, they're calling her Jack now.
Okay. Didn't we learn, I learned from watching
Gentleman Jack
that Jack was, those centuries later when that took place, was like a kind of an insult for a masculine woman.
Yes.
Do we think that is how they mean it?
Well, I think they're like friends of hers.
Oh, they're taking it back.
They're just calling her Jack.
They're reclaiming
for
it.
funsies.
Yeah.
Moll greets Sir Alexander, and he says, "Impudence, where's my son?" And she says, "Weakness, go look at him."
Ha. Nice.
And he gestures at her clothes and is like, "Is this your wedding gown?"
She's like, "Yeah, you wish."
And then she walks off stage.
Okay.
A servant comes and is like, your son comes with his bride, with his fair bride."
Yeah.
Sir Alexander is basically like, whoever she might be, like, bless her.
Yeah.
Bless this woman that my son is going to marry.
Yeah.
Moll comes on stage
Okay.
dressed as a woman,
Okay.
wearing a mask,
A mask.
with Sebastian
Okay.
and Sir Guy Fitzallard.
Okay. No Mary. Is Sebastian in disguise?
No.
No.
And they do this little farcical thing. So Sir Alexander is like, finally my son has seen sense.
He just thinks it's a random woman.
Yes.
Okay.
He's like, finally my son has seen sense. And Sebastian kneels and asks for his pardon. And Sir Alexander forgives him, gives him a blessing, tells everyone to salute his son's new bride. And then they take off her mask.
Oh my gosh.
And he says, "Oh, my reviving shame! Is it I must live to be struck blind? Be it the work of sorrow, before age take it in hand?" And then Sir Guy accuses Sir Alexander of having tricked him.
Okay.
He says, "Darkness and death, have you deceived me thus? Did I engage my whole estate for this?" And so now they're accusing each other.
Yeah. But Guy's just joking? Or like he's playing it up? He's doing a bit?
Yes, I
Okay.
think he's doing a bit. They're all just...
The only one who's not in on it is Alexander.
Yes.
Okay.
And Sir Alexander says, "You asked no favor, and you shall find as little. Since my comforts play false with me, I'll be as cruel to thee as grief to fathers' hearts." And Moll says, "Why, what's the matter with you? Lest too much joy should make your age forgetful? Are you too well? Too happy?" And he says, "With a vengeance!" And she says, "Methinks you should be proud of such a daughter, as good a man as your son."
Oh.
Yeah.
True.
And he lashes out at her, and she gives him this adorable little mini speech where she says, "You had no note before an unmarked night. Now all the town will take regard on you, and all your enemies fear you for my sake. You may pass where you list through crowds most thick, and come off bravely with your purse unpicked. You do not know the benefits I bring with me. No cheat dares work upon you with thumb or knife, while you've a roaring girl to your son's wife."
Oh.
So this is the thing. They're backing him into a corner.
Uh-huh.
And now that he's like good and mad, Sir Guy essentially says, "Would you like to back out of our bargain?"
Just reminding you of the deal we had.
Yeah, because...
Such a gentleman.
Well, no, it's the other way around. Sir Alexander thinks that Sir Guy has just lost.
Right.
And Sir Guy is like, "Would you have the charity to let me out of my rash wager?"
Yeah.
And Sir Alexander's like, "Absolutely not."
It is ironclad.
Yep.
No backsies.
Yes.
Sir Guy's like, good, just checking.
Exactly. And then finally, Mary Fitzallard comes onto the stage along with all of the merchants and their wives for some reason.
Of course. It's the whole gang.
And everyone's like, yeah, and yay, we're getting, everyone's married. And so we finally let Sir Alexander, and Sir Alexander's like, oh, thank God. Like, this is, we're saved.
Yeah.
Blessings eternal and joys of angels, begin your peace here to be signed in heaven. How short my sleep of sorrow seems now to me, to this eternity of boundless comforts. Whew!
Yeah.
We did it!
Yeah.
He repents heartily, and he talks about
Repents to whom?
Just
For what?
For being such a dick.
Oh, okay, just in general.
Yeah, just in general. He talks about how what a dick he'd been.
Yeah.
And he specifically
And I'll do it again.
tells Moll that he was wrong about her.
Sure.
And he forgives Sebastian. Sebastian forgives him. Everybody forgives everybody, and it's very sweet.
What about the money?
And the money just goes to Sebastian, I guess. You know, it goes to the new married couple.
Okay.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
Moll turns to one of the other noblemen and is like, "Did you hear? You know, like, isn't this funny? Like, he thought his son was gonna marry me.
Yeah.
He didn't know that I would never agree to marry anybody." And the random lord, who only has like 2 lines in this play,
Okay.
he's just like, well, why is that so funny? Like, weren't you gonna get married at some point or something? And she gives her last little speech, which I love so much. Who I, my lord? I'll tell you when, in faith. When you shall hear gallants void from sergeant's fear, honesty and truth unslandered, woman manned but never pandered, cheaters booted but not coached, vessels older ere they're broached. If my mind be then not varied, next day following all be married. And so the translation of that is, so gallants void from sergeant's fear. That basically means that young men can have fun without worrying about being hunted down by the sergeants. But then woman manned but never pandered means that she can have a man if she wants one. But so pandered is another term for pimped, basically.
Yeah, that's
so
what I thought, yeah.
Manned but never pandered means that she can have a relationship with a man without it becoming exploitative.
Yeah.
Cheaters booted but not coached is essentially, it's complicated to describe, but it basically means like when the crimes of the rich are treated as seriously as the crimes of the poor.
Okay.
And then vessels older ere they're broached straight up is just when men stop f***ing girls when they're too young.
Yeah.
Like that's
got that one pretty quick. Yeah.
When all of those things have happened, essentially, when men and women are equal, when the rich are not privileged over the poor, when people stop preying on girls who are too young to be preyed on, then she will get married.
Yeah.
And he responds, that sounds like doomsday.
No, oh my God.
And that's pretty much the end of the play. Moll gives the money back to Sir Alexander. She's like, I never spent it. Joke's on you.
Oh, the bad coins.
The bad coins. Yeah. She gives them back. And everyone's happy. And then there's a long epilogue.
Is the epilogue apologizing like the prologue was?
It is, actually.
Okay. Sorry if you didn't like it. We tried.
The epilogue starts with, it's this sort of little parable, which is saying that a painter was painting a woman, and every time someone gave him a critique on the brows are too high or the eyes are too far apart, he took everyone's criticism and incorporated it into the painting.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the setup for the epilogue. And then this is the rest of it.
The workman still, as fault was found, did mend it, in hope to please all. But this work being ended and hung open at stall, it was so vile, so monstrous, and so ugly, all men did smile at the poor painter's folly. Such we doubt is this our comedy. Some perhaps do flout the plot, saying 'tis too thin, too weak, too mean. Some for the person will revile the scene, and wonder that a creature of her being should be the subject of a poet, seen in the world's eye, none ways so light. Others look for all those base tricks published in a book, foul as his brains they flowed from, of cut-purses, of nips and foists, nasty, obscene discourses, as full of lies, as empty of worth or wit, for any honest ear or eye unfit. And thus, if we to every brain that's humorous should fashion scenes, we, with the painter, shall, in striving to please all, please none at all. Yet for such faults as either the writer's wit or negligence of the actors do commit, both crave your pardons. If what both have done cannot full pay your expectation, the roaring girl herself, some few days hence, shall on the stage give larger recompense, which mirth that you may share in, herself does woo you, and craves this sign, your hands to beckon her to you. Exit finis.
So, here is the fun part.
Yeah.
In the epilogue, after they get done apologizing and basically being like, we can't make everybody happy, then we'd make nobody happy.
Yeah.
They say, the roaring girl herself, some days hence, will give you, basically appear on the stage and give you recompense.
Yeah.
She did.
What does that mean?
Mary Frith showed up
Yeah.
to the theater.
And gave money or something?
No, and got
Oh.
on stage and like performed like and like sang a song.
Oh.
Yeah. She showed up at her own play and was like,
Hi.
hi, it's me.
Yeah.
That's a crime.
What's a crime?
A woman being on a stage in a playhouse.
Oh. Did she get in trouble?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
She went to prison
Oh no.
for a little while.
Why did they do that to her?
Well, I mean, I don't think they intended to.
It's a crime.
Well, they didn't know she was going to do that.
Oh, they were just saying a little joke?
So this is one of those really fun things of history.
Yeah.
We know that she showed up during the play
Okay.
that was about her
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
We don't know if it was premeditated.
Yeah.
We don't know if the theater company was in on it.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was a joke that accidentally came true, or if she did it and then they added that after the fact as a reference to the thing that happened.
Yeah.
But the real Mary Frith turned up during her play to be like, hey, it's a me.
It's a me, a Mary.
And she apparently, so she showed up at the Fortune, this was put on at the Fortune Theater.
Okay.
This is from her indictment.
Oh my.
Being at a play about 3/4 of a year since, at the Fortune, in man's apparel, and in her boots and with a sword at her side, she told the company there present that she thought many of them were of opinion that she was a man. But if any of them would come to her lodging, they should find that she is a woman.
Oh my.
And some other immodest and lascivious speeches she also used at the time, and also sat there upon the stage in the public view of all the people present, in man's apparel, and played upon her lute and sang a song.
So she made some jokes.
She made some jokes.
So she did dress like a man.
Yes.
Okay.
So that the real Mary Cutpurse, the real the real Mary Frith,
Mm-hmm.
who was in real life called Moll Cutpurse,
Yeah.
dressed as a man.
Okay.
Full stop.
Got it.
That was her thing.
Yeah. That was what she was known for.
That was what she was known
Probably
for.
what they extrapolated the character.
Yes. I got a little ahead of myself.
Okay.
That's the end of the play.
Yes.
What do we think?
Sure. I mean, like a lot of these rom-coms from, I guess, this era, the ending is often like a little boring to
Yeah.
modern audiences because we're like, it's happy ending for everybody. And we today find it predictable.
Yeah. Well, I think it was predictable then. I think it was
sure.
kind of meant to be.
Yeah, but it's just a happy ending for all.
Yep. Yay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I liked her speech at the end.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we
Was this first wave feminism? The Thomases?
What are you doing, Thomases?
Yeah. What do you think of it? No one ever asked you.
I think it's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
I think I would really, really like to see someone stage it.
Yeah, that'd
Like-
be cool.
I would love to see it staged properly. I also I would really love to see specifically a Guy Ritchie adaptation of it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it would fit.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like just the whole tone and speed
Yeah.
of the movies he makes,
Yeah.
I think would be like a really fitting adaptation of this specifically,
Sure.
because it's that kind of dick joke every minute.
Uh-huh.
Guy Ritchie loves to make a movie about a sort of notorious underworld character who turns out to have morals deep down.
Uh-huh.
And I just think it would be very fun to see the Guy Ritchification of this.
Yeah, that sort of treatment.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Does this get staged, this play?
Every once in a while, I think, but
Yeah.
not very often.
Yeah.
It's not exactly beloved. It enjoyed a resurgence in sort of academic scrutiny starting in the 70s and 80s with kind of the feminist.
Yeah.
You can see why you'd pull this out of a stack, especially as a scholar in the 70s and 80s, and be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like oh."
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd love to see it staged because I think the jokes would land a lot better performed properly.
Would you want to see it staged in traditional costume and setting, or in a more modern costume adaptation?
No.
Yeah.
You'd have to be careful with the costuming because you'd have to set it at a point where a woman wearing dude's clothes doesn't just look normal.
That's very true.
You can't set it in an era where people are wearing jeans and polo shirts.
That's very true. It couldn't be a modern
It would have to be pre
World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah. In which case, might as well just make it set
Yeah.
1611. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the play.
I like it.
Do you want to talk about Mary Frith,
I would like to know about her.
the person?
I would like to learn about her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she's
I'm frithing at the mouth.
So one of the things about this play, it's very important to distinguish between Moll Cutpurse, the character,
Mm-hmm.
and Mary Frith, the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this isn't the only play written about Moll Cutpurse.
Really?
She was famous.
She was a topic of conversation.
Yeah, she was the
ITGIRL.
She was one of the first criminal celebrities.
Wow. Okay.
She made herself famous. She was pretty canny.
Yeah.
Mary Frith, the person,
Uh-huh.
first shows up in the criminal record as an actual cutpurse in about 1600.
Yeah, like a thief, like a
Yes.
pickpocket.
Probably working with a crew of other women. She gets in a lot of criminal trouble over the years, but
Mhm.
the worst thing that ever happens is she goes to prison for a couple of months.
Okay. Slippery Frith.
Yeah, but she wore men's clothes all the time. That was the thing. Several plays were written about her starting as early as 1608, I think.
All right.
So she's
She's a bad bitch.
she's a celebrity criminal.
Yeah.
And then this play is written about her in 1611, which is the sort of most famous and most successful play about her,
Mm-hmm.
and the only one where she actually shows up.
You mean her person when she went after the play?
She showed up. She was like, "Hi, it's me.
Yeah.
Hello."
This is the one that I endorse. I like this one.
And again, like I said, we have no idea what the circumstances were.
Yeah.
We just know that she briefly went to prison for it.
That's wild. I guess I knew that the theater had a reputation for being licentious, and that's where loose women went, but I didn't know it was an actual crime for a woman to appear on stage.
Yeah.
I just thought it was more tradition. That's why men played all the parts.
No, it was not tradition. It was the law.
Okay.
Which, if you see the unimpeachable historical text, Shakespeare in Love,
Yes.
with Goop, that's one of the big problems. Is it's not just uncool to have a woman on the stage. Everyone will get arrested. It's bad.
Everyone.
It's a crime.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not everyone. She just gets arrested.
Goop.
I don't think the actors got arrested.
Goop goes to jail.
The fact that no one from the theater company appears to have gotten in trouble does lend itself pretty handily to the idea that she just kind of showed up and was like, "What's up? This is my play."
Yeah. And they're
"Y'all want to hear a song?"
They're any press is good press. Yes, please get on stage.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But from that same indictment, what we know is that she was arrested after inviting herself to the play.
Yeah.
And the same indictment is actually from when she was arrested again
Oh.
later
Oh.
for being in Paul's church with her petticoat tucked up about her in the fashion of a man, and with a man's cloak on her, to the great scandal of diverse persons, and to the disgrace of all womanhood.
So she's just playing around with her clothes a little bit.
Well, so she was dressed as a man in a church,
Yeah.
and this was a problem.
Mm.
And so she was sentenced to prison again, and also public penance for that one. We have a letter about the penance she was sentenced to. And
right.
this, I think, is going to make you like her even more than you did.
Okay.
This was just some dude's letter that he was writing to a friend and was like, "Oh yeah, Moll Cutpurse did her penance the other day." And
Yeah.
it says, "She wept bitterly and seemed very penitent, but yet is since doubted that she was maudlin drunk, being discovered to have tippled 3 quarts of sack before she came to her penance. She had the daintiest preacher, or ghostly father, that ever I saw in pulpit. He did extremely badly, and so wearied the audience that the best part went away, and the rest tarried rather to hear Moll Cutpurse than him.
Okay.
So she showed up to her penance drunk
Yeah.
and, like, put on a show.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Yeah.
she hammed it up.
Yeah.
She stole the scene,
Yeah.
and I love her for it.
I do love that.
And that's kind of the end of what we have good records of in terms of her getting into trouble. She appears to have at some point become a broker between thieves and people they had stolen things from, because it was fairly common to basically drop charges in exchange for getting some of your stuff back.
Yeah.
And that's what she did. She was the broker. She'd be like,
That's cool.
well, here's the guy that stole all your stuff.
Yeah.
You can have some of it back.
She's like, pay me, I'll find him, and he'll give some back.
Interestingly, she did get married at some point,
All right.
but it didn't take. And we have no real information about it except for the fact that she and her husband either never cohabitated at all or cohabitated only very briefly.
Did she get like a formal divorce?
That didn't exist.
That didn't exist.
That was not
Annulment?
That was not real.
Annulment?
No.
Oh.
He died eventually, but they just
there you go.
they got married and then they never lived as husband and wife
Yeah.
that we can tell. We do have some records that she might have been using her marital status to evade lawsuits in some way I can't quite parse. So it's possible that it was just a marriage of convenience.
Sure.
But
Just one of her bros pulling her a favor.
we don't know. And in the end, she did quite well for herself. She lived long enough and was financially successful enough that the last document we have of hers is her will, where she has a good bit of money to bequeath.
All right.
We don't know what her entire estate was, but she bequeaths £20 to a relative, which today, thank you to the Bank of England historic currency calculator, comes out to about £3,000.
All right.
And that was like a specific bequest, and then the rest of her estate was being left to her niece. So she did well.
Yeah.
I bring some of these things up, and part of the reason I'm sort of emphasizing the divide between Mary Frith and Moll Cutpurse is that after she died, A of all, this play obviously outlived her.
Yeah.
B of all, someone published a fake a biography and then like a fake autobiography after her death.
Ooh.
And because this play was not the only place where she was represented in fiction in the time, like it kind of
popular.
It was, she was popular and she was notorious. I mean, it reminds me of the way that, like, especially back when media was a little bit more of a closed circuit, you know, before we had like streaming services and stuff. Like if you watch like Saturday Night Live, the way that like certain figures just come up over and over and over again in like sketches and skits and things like that. She was that much of a celebrity, essentially.
That's a good comparison. Yeah.
So after she died, stuff starts popping up that's claiming to be like her diary and like the real Moll Cutpurse. And the problem is that those documents, I have noticed, float around the internet now, and not everyone seems to realize what their provenance is.
Yeah.
The fake stuff that floats around is all very fun, but it's also not true.
Yeah.
Or verifiable. And it can be fun to speculate, but
someone was just trying to make a buck.
Yeah. Well, and somebody wanted, it's a fun story. It's a salacious story. I don't know. Like, without speculating too much about like her gender and sexuality, it does seem pretty clear to me that wearing men's clothes was important to her for reasons beyond simple provocation.
Yeah, I mean, if she did it her whole life.
Well, and if she got arrested twice, if she went to actual prison multiple times and refused to stop.
Yeah, that plus like the single marriage of convenience that did not last. That connects some dots for me personally, in my opinion. Yeah. Of what I believe to be true. I'm no scholar. I'm just a guy.
I'm just a guy.
Just going off vibes. Yeah.
And so that's that's really all we have about Mary Frith, the person.
Yeah.
And then there's Moll Cutpurse, the character, and like everything that's bound up in her.
I mean, I think it's very interesting that the Thomases took this popular character and decided, I kind of wonder about like what their motivations were or what they were thinking. They just decided to take this popular character who's probably like quite controversial and make her like a hero and kind of like give her, just like justify a lot of her actions and make her really likable and everything. And
yeah,
it's just an interesting decision.
And that's one of the things that I really love about it. Moll Cutpurse, the character, it's kind of difficult to convey from a modern perspective how sort of wild it is that she ends the play not just unmarried, but happily unmarried.
Yeah, and being like, and I won't get married.
And I'm not doing it. You can't make me.
Yeah.
And not only that, but that she like turns down what she doesn't know is a false proposal from a nobleman.
Yeah.
That's money. That's security.
Yeah.
Right?
That's set up for life.
Don't have to worry about a thing for, yeah, like you said, set up for life. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that she turns that down without knowing it's false, and then by the end of the play is still just like, no. That's very, very unusual.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting position for Middleton and Dekker to take.
To me, I wonder, it's gay recognize gay.
A thing that I learned about doing some research sort of around this play and around the cross-dressing debate in Jacobean England and in Elizabethan England before that, but especially, as it sort of mounted to this moral panic in the 1620s that I was telling you about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that there was kind of a minor genre of stories that predate this that were about women dressing in men's clothes. But prior to this, they always ended. Think of this also crops up in Shakespeare, right? You've got sometimes you have women dressing in men's clothes to actively pretend that they are men.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you had a woman dressing in man's clothes just to kind of do it because she was manly, because she was not like other women, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the genre convention, both in Shakespeare and in a general sense, was that those women always ended those stories by meeting a man who was so manly that she could finally relax into her naturally submissive role.
Yes.
And let go of her manliness.
Yeah.
And you see that in a lot of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It pops up all the time.
Yeah, a lot of characters like dress as a man to achieve an end.
Yes.
And then they meet that purpose and then they're like, and now I get married.
And now I get to calm down.
Yeah.
It's a trope we still kind of see, right? Like there are a lot of men kind of fantasize about taking a strong
Tame that shrew
woman and making her into a submissive wife.
Yeah.
That's not this story.
No, not at all.
And that's the sort of biggest thing that makes it stand out. Because my thought originally when reading this was that, like, she couldn't get married because she's too subversive of a character, essentially. She's too weird. That they, like, didn't know.
Nobody can match her freak.
That nobody could match her freak, and therefore that Middleton and Dekker kind of didn't know what to do with her. That they like got in over their heads and were like, oh, like, we've decided to write this play about this celebrity criminal.
Yeah.
But, like, what do we do with her?
Yeah.
Because we can't set her up with a love plot because she's too abnormal to be allowed to love.
Also, that would be so weird to write fiction about a living person and just be like, and then she stopped wearing man's clothes and got married. And then she's like, hey,
I mean,
it's me. I didn't do that.
I understand what you're saying, but also the internet is literally riddled with hundreds of thousands of words of fan fiction about real people.
Sure, it's just like writing a fan fiction on a website, I guess, is different than staging a play in Jacobean England. Jacobean, whatever. Jacobean.
The audience sizes are probably about the same.
It's true.
But I take your point. It would have been weird. But,
Yeah.
like, that was my instinct, was that they, like, didn't know what to do with her. But the more
Yeah.
I read about other similar stories and the more I read about sort of the cross-dressing debate in general, the more I was like, no, like they could have done that, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think if they didn't know what to do with her, the play would have been much messier.
Yes.
And it would have made a lot less sense. It's like, this seems intentional, like they had a vision and they executed it, you know?
It makes me wonder.
It's not clumsy.
As I have not seen anyone mention this at all, like not even a little bit.
You're hearing it here first.
Well, it makes me wonder if they knew her. She hung out at the Fortune all the time.
I think it's very possible.
She was a regular at the theater.
Because that goes back to my question of like, why are they choosing to like take this infamous person and give her such a glowing story basically and make her so likable and like win the audience over in her favor? To me, it makes a lot of sense that perhaps they knew her.
Yeah, I just feel like they must have been bros.
Yeah.
It just feels like they had to be bros.
She was so broable.
I want to be very clear that I have no historical basis for this assertion at all.
We're going on instinct, baby.
Do not quote me.
Gut.
But yeah, it would make sense to me if she was a regular at the theater they were writing for, and like they even mentioned the Fortune in the play. They get meta with it.
Okay.
How many cross-dressing broads were chilling at the Fortune on the reg?
Well, she showed up and got on stage. I don't assume that just anybody can get on stage.
Well, she just climbed up on the stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They'd already written the whole play by the time she showed up, but like,
yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like they might have known her.
I think that's a fair guess.
Yeah.
Was this play popular at the time? Was it well received?
Appears to have been pretty well received. Was only performed like the one time and then was printed out as a pamphlet to read at home. But the impression I get is that city comedies at the time were kind of being churned out the way that rom-coms were in the 80s and 90s, and there was just like a new one every other week.
So was it common to only get performed once?
Well, it had one run, not like one. Yeah, so they performed it for, a month or however long that they staged things, and then, but it wasn't ever put on again that we know. But we also don't have exhaustive records of every single performance of every play.
Of course.
So we only know for a fact that it had one run.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who would you cast to play Moll Cutpurse?
Oh.
I keep wanting to say Mo Cutthroat. That's why I keep pausing so much, because I'm like, Mo Cut. I can't. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Well, how old do we think Moll Cutpurse is?
If it were present day, I would say 30s. But since she's bros with all of the Nepo bros, I guess 20s. And everyone still expects her to get married.
That's true. Yeah.
Then it's 20s probably.
Yeah. I was going to say like Kristen Stewart. But
I mean, she is kind of the go-to lesbian.
Yeah, but also I'm not getting Kristen
No, I don't think so.
A little more golden retriever-y. Who's like
I want a little more swagger.
Who's a slightly butchy but like more like bouncy, like bro-ier, you know? I'm looking for swagger, but also a little bit of that golden retriever energy.
Yeah, it's going to take me a second. I can't think of a trans actor I saw in a very indie film who had unbelievable golden retriever energy. That was like their entire character, but I do not know their name.
We'll have to find it at some point.
Was cross-dressing actually illegal at the time?
So there weren't laws against women wearing men's clothes. One of the things that I found, and this reminds me actually of our Marlowe episodes when I was telling you about how Constance was a real wet blanket every time we were talking about like the more fun interpretations of Marlowe's life. Yeah. Every once in a while I pull myself out of literary academia world and go into history academia world. And specifically seek out papers by historians because they are real wet blankets. Because a lot of English scholarship, right, like when you're doing like English literary scholarship, you are starting with a story and then you are kind of using it as a jumping off point to like explore all of its possibilities kind of across space and time, and like how it was interpreted then and how it can be interpreted now, and like the gaps in what we understand. And it's a lot more malleable. And historians,
it's like, no,
for like whatever reason, I guess, are very preoccupied with like things that happened and things that we can prove.
Nah.
And so I found this paper by a historian named David Cressy that is specifically about cross-dressing in early modern England.
Yeah.
And I think that he actually lays it on a little too thick in the other direction, kind of trying to be like, it wasn't scandalous. It was totally normal. It happened all the time. And you're weird for trying to make it too queer. But what he talked about,
I'm giving side eye,
justifiably, was that people in early modern England were cross-dressing all the time for funsies. It was very, very common in both genders to cross-dress for like May Day and Shrovetide and weddings and party. Like there were all of these situations.
It was a fun thing to do.
It was a pretty standard thing that people would do, like as a lark, as a prank, as a funny.
Yeah.
Men were dressing as women all the time on the stage.
Yeah.
So like there's that on the one side, and then on the other side there are these two pamphlets that were published at sort of the peak of the moral panic about all of this. And one of them was called Hic Mulier, or The Man Woman, which was about how awful it is that women are dressing like men and what monsters they're becoming. And like I said before, like the author is writing as if these women are somehow turning themselves into men.
Yeah.
By changing their clothes.
Might as well be.
And then a rebuttal pamphlet that was called Hic Vir, or The Womanish Man. They're both written anonymously. And it was apparently pretty normal for people to write a pamphlet and then write their own rebuttal pamphlet, because then you got to sell the same viewpoint twice.
Sure.
Which is very funny to me.
Yeah. Gotta make that money. Gotta drum up some culture clash.
I was reading Cressy's paper, and then I was going back through the first pamphlet, the Hic Mulier, the Man Woman. And reading the two of them one right after the other reminded me of when they were first really pushing the drag bans.
Yeah.
And all the people who were pointing out the same places that were trying to ban drag were the places that had these like really long cherished traditions of like powder puff football.
Yeah.
And I think both things are true. I think we are dramatically underestimating the extent to which people have always cross-dressed either for fun or as a lark, or even because they just liked it.
Yeah.
As long as it was adequately excusable.
Yeah, it was like sanctioned.
But that does not take away from how strongly and powerfully the system would react if that behavior ever veered into something that felt like a genuine threat to the status quo.
Yeah.
I think both things are very true.
Yeah.
All of which is to say it was never illegal because people did it all the time and it was fine.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah.
People were never arrested just for cross-dressing, right? Mary Frith wasn't arrested for cross-dressing. She was arrested for being on stage, and then she was arrested for cross-dressing in a church. That is different.
Yeah.
Cressy lists off some examples of usually women being arrested for wearing men's clothes, but only in very specific situations. And it's almost always in churches.
Okay.
Which is, it's like, you can do whatever you want out there.
Yeah.
You can't bring that into God's house.
Yeah.
Now we're mad.
Yeah.
That being said, at a certain point, kind of at the peak of this panic, King James was explicitly instructing the church to threaten the husbands, brothers, and fathers of women who were cross-dressing with legal action, basically.
Yeah.
They were like, you get them in check or we will.
Yeah.
So it was a close thing, but I don't think it ever became properly illegal.
Interesting.
Which actually puts Jacobean England ahead of America at several points when it was 100% illegal to be wearing clothes of the opposite gender.
Absolutely.
One of the last things I'll say about this play and about sort of Jacobean women and the cross-dressing panic and all of this in a general sense is, as we discussed, Moll 100% makes several jokes about having sex with women.
Yeah.
It's being done two ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she is 100% making a joke about what amounts to lesbian erotic activity, and the joke is that she's such a man that she can have sex with a woman.
Yeah.
One of the things I find really interesting about this play is how much it really emphasizes to me the extent to which we kind of forget that in early modern England, sexuality isn't really a thing. You don't have a sexuality.
Yeah.
heterosexual and homosexual desire, heterosexual and homosexual eroticism, and sex are acts that you undertake.
Mm-hmm.
They are not a means of self-definition.
No.
I think it's something worth remembering. Like,
we cannot so neatly project our modern notions of sexuality onto cultures past, and specifically this culture and society, because it is not as neat a parallel as we assume it to be. We just assume they were even more conservative than us, and that these roles are gender roles are so entrenched that they have always been this way. That is not true.
no. One of the things I was thinking about when I was doing the reading for this, and when I was reading about especially like lesbian eroticism and desire in early modern England, is that in a lot of ways, the idea that desire and eroticism is just sort of an act you undertake and not who you are.
Yeah.
I bring that up because it's funny, because it feels like we are looping back around to that societally.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Which is just like, who you is not who you are.
No, it's just an activity that you do.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, you know what I mean. You're the one telling me this concept. Yeah. But no, absolutely. I understand that distinction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree.
It's just funny to...
Well, I think some people find, at least in like a modern conversation, some people do find that foundational to their identity. They're like, no, that is a part of how I define myself. And other people are like, no, that's just something that I do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a whole person outside of that.
And it's...
Or with that.
It's kind of comforting to be reminded that even things that feel as fundamental as sexuality can change so much in cultural perception and norms, and, you know, the way that we define ourselves writ large. I mean, for some of the next episodes we're recording, I'm currently reading about the birth of romanticism, like capital R romanticism, and sort of the invention of the sort of modern Western understanding of the concept of the self.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, oh yeah, we had to come up with that. Like,
yeah.
We did not have these ideas at one point, and now we do. And we're immersed in them so thoroughly that it feels like the air we breathe.
Yeah, that they've always been like that.
But this is a creation. Individualism is a creation of humans.
Yeah.
It is a school of thought that we did not always have.
It's all a construct, baby.
And it's just wild. It's wild to be reminded of these things.
Yeah.
All of which is to say, this weekend,
Moll is hot.
Put on some pants.
Yeah.
Grab your best sword and go pick a fight with someone who looks at you funny.
Yeah. Go steal directly out of people's purses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut them purses.
And then go to a movie theater, get on stage in front of the movie and be like, hi, it's me. I'm the one the movie's about.
Be very funny.
And everyone will be like, yay.
Be very funny if people started doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if this sounded intriguing to you, but the Jacobean prose leaves you cold, as I think it does a lot of us, it can be kind of a slog.
I did my best.
The first one I haven't actually read yet, I will admit, but I found out that there is a lesbian novel from the 80s written by Ellen Galford called Moll Cutpurse, Her True History.
Ooh.
That looks rad as hell and is apparently written primarily from the perspective of Moll's girlfriend.
Oh, hell yeah.
I ordered a used copy because it is no longer in print.
Yeah.
It will be here next week. I will report back.
Hell yeah.
Also, if you want a historic novel that has sort of similar swashbuckling, cross-dressing, butch bisexual vibes...
Mm-hmm. And I do.
And I know you always do.
Yeah.
There is a historical novel about a real canonical bisexual, Kelly Gardner's novel Goddess.
Okay.
Which is about Julie, forgive my French, Julie d'Aubigny.
Okay.
Who is a very famous sword-fighting French lady. You've probably seen at least one Did You Know thread about her, because she's the one who like broke into a nunnery and... broke her girlfriend out of the nunnery and then burned the nunnery down.
Mon Dieu.
She's a blast. We won't ever really get a chance to talk about her on this podcast because, to my knowledge, she never wrote any fiction.
Yeah.
But the Gardner novel about her is, historical fiction, but the Gardner novel about her is a blast. It's very well written, and it's full of all kinds of bisexual cross-dressing sword fighting shenanigans.
Oh la la.
So 11/10, recommend.
Cool.
If you want a sort of spiritual successor to Moll Cutpurse, I'd say Julie d'Aubigny is a good one.
The book is called Goddess.
Goddess by Kelly Gardner.
Mm.
Yeah.
Merci.
Any last thoughts?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with me this week. We are well underway. We are part of the way through September.
Woo!
Which means we're going to slide into spooky season soon.
Slide into October's DMs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're sliding into October's DMs, asking if she's dating anybody right now.
She's dating everybody.
She
That's
really is.
You know, that's the great thing.
We will be it will be all horror all the time. It didn't read it until probably mid-November.
Ooh.
Because I like to make spooky season last.
Huzzah.
And then actually I'm kind of lying because then I'll probably pivot back to spooky. I do like to do a good ghost story in December. It's gonna be a lot of ghosts. It's gonna be spooky.
This can be spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have that coming up.
Anything can be spooky if you
try hard enough.
Just look around. If you just wake up.
And yeah.
Huzzah.
If you can, we would really appreciate if you left us a review, told a friend.
Yeah.
Came and hung out with us on like Instagram.
Smash that like button.
Shoot us an email.
Sure.
Tell me you exist, you know?
Yeah.
I just want to know. Shoot me an email and ask for some bookmarks. I'll send them to you.
Oh yeah, the bookmarks. They're good.
Yeah, we have Didn't Read It bookmarks that say Not Your Dowager Aunt's Book Podcast. And we have slightly unhinged anti-AI bookmarks that I just made to make because
you're right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I love being told that I'm right.
Yeah. I'm going to get another t-shirt. I don't have the metatextual t-shirt. I'm going to get that one.
Ooh,
and then I'm going to crop it.
Love that.
I got to crop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta.
The last one I got the failing to maximize my potential t-shirt. And I cropped it too short. And it is now slightly improper to wear in most public situations. So I have to get another one.
I feel like today Moll Cutpurse would be wearing oversized, like fairly loose cut denim cutoffs.
Uh-huh.
But like almost knee length.
Yeah.
And then a men's muscle tank, but that was cropped. I think and would also probably be carrying a gun, I guess.
Oh my god.
She'd be a gun-toting hot butch redneck.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, we need this remake. Holy shit.
God.
Somebody write this movie for me right now.
Yeah, that sounds good, Grace. That sounds yeah. I like that character sketch.
Somebody, screenwriters.
Thanks for giving me something to think about that I cannot have.
Let's give them something to wank about.
Oh, no. You know what? You be the Moll Cutpurse that you want to. Moll Cutpurse that you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
be
right.
the Moll Cutpurse that you want to wank to.
All right.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
No.
All right. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for being here. And as always, if you can, this week, this month, this pay period, consider supporting a living author because they could really use the love. Bye. Didn't Read It was created, written, recorded, and edited by me, Grace Todd. You can follow the show on Instagram or Twitter @Didn'tReadIt.
Our theme song is Books, written, performed, and recorded by William Albritton.
For sources cited and a full list of episodes, you can visit us at didntreaditpod.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review. It makes a big difference, and we appreciate it immensely.
If you did not enjoy the show, we are accepting applications for a full-time nemesis at didntreaditpod@gmail.com. Special thanks to Black Iris Social Club in Richmond, Virginia, and to Pesca Trio Publishing.